Did you know formaldehyde can enter a home through products like engineered wood, furniture, computers, carpeting, treated fabrics, hairsprays, and cleaning materials? These potentially harmful VOCs can circulate throughout indoor living spaces and affect the air you breathe. According to the EPA, poor indoor air quality has been linked to headaches, fatigue, allergies, asthma, and more. The good news is you can ensure your client's air is clean with Certainteed Air Renew drywall. Air Renew Indoor Air Quality Drywall is the first of its kind, patent pending drywall that actively cleans the air by permanently removing formaldehyde. When airborne formaldehyde comes in contact with the board through normal air circulation, Air Renew drywall captures the formaldehyde and converts it into a safe, inert compound, keeping it safely within the drywall. Air Renew drywall cuts, installs, and finishes just like regular drywall and comes in type X, moisture, and mold resistant for multiple solutions. The board looks, installs, and finishes just like standard drywall. It also is available in MT2 Tech moisture and mold resistant and type X, so it can help fit multiple. Indoor air performance tests prove that Air Renew permanently removes formaldehyde. It has been validated by their ULE through their Environmental Claims Validations program. It works with most water-based acrylic and epoxy-based paints. Go ahead and check out Certainteed, Saint Gobain, Air Renew, VOC Eating Drywall today.
All right, well, this is our last and final session of our four-part series with a breakdown of part 4 into 2 different sections on the credits. So in the last one we did energy and health, and this one we're going to be focused purely on water, materials, and the place credits.
All right, let's get on to water here. So in your workbook, you'll see a tab called water, and this is where we just compared the 3 major rating systems and focused only on new for NGBS for very obvious reasons, because existing does not have a prescriptive. And so you can see across the top we've got our shower heads, and that is 2.5, 1.75, 1.5. For lavatory, you've got 1.5 gallons per minute and 1. And toilets, you've got 1.28, 1, and 1.1 and 1. And so you can kind of just see how many points you're getting rewarded in each of these rating systems for hitting these point thresholds, or whether it's something that's something that's required to do. And so you can also see that there are some strange exemptions, like for NGBS, fixtures are not more than combined on average, more points for more. And then the interesting thing about National Green Building Standard that they've even said that is a little bit of a flaw is that the more bathrooms you have, the more points you get, even though you're going to be using more water. So they're inherently are rewarding, whether intentionally or not, they're rewarding larger homes because of that. And then also for multifamily and National Green Building Standard, you have to, we had a project team go, oh yeah, we've got 50 units, so we've got 50 bathrooms, so that means we get all the points. Nope, got to take the average. So if you just got an average of 1 bathroom in all the multifamily units, you just get 1 point. So again, they're rewarding multifamily buildings with more bathrooms in it. And so it's a little wonky, but that's kind of the way we have it. Reducing, so for outdoor, you're looking at 2 different strategies for most of the time. You're looking at both reducing the amount of turf you have and then increasing the adaptive drought tolerance, maybe even local landscaping, if you will. And so Enterprise Green Communities flat out requires this, so it should have been up here. LEED, you get turf grass area compared to adaptive, so that's 1 point for less than 60% turf and at least 25% adaptive, 2 points for 40 to 50, 3 for 20 to 75, and then all the points for 5% of all your area being turf grass and 75% being adaptive. For NGBS, you're looking at 4 points or 5 points for having no turf, 4 for having less than 20, 3 for having less than 40, 2 for having less than 60. You get 6 points for natural vegetation in, home innovations. 50% of the lot is adaptive or turf, and that's 3 points. if it's 100%, it's 6 points. And then there's extra credit in National Green Building Standard if you do advanced landscape practices, shading, hydrozoning, and group plantings. All of that stuff is required in the WaterSense water budget tool if you're pursuing that. All right, so what's new, just like energy performance, energy modeling, we are going into the future where we're going to be doing the same thing for water. Without a doubt, I highly encourage you to start getting into water performance. It's going to be very important to have a more robust and better way to understand how we're wasting, how we're using water, rather than taking a prescriptive approach. I have no doubt that that is the direction we are ultimately heading in. So one thing I want to first point out here is that Home Innovations Lab does have a water performance pathway, but not for new construction at this point in time. It does accept the EPA water budget tool for outdoor in some ways, but its water performance pathway is only for renovations and not for new construction. So here we're talking more about new construction. So the Enterprise Green Communities program has a percentage of reduction for indoor water usage only. So that's 30% for 4 points, 50% for 5 points, and 70% for 6 points. They do not have it. They don't have it for outdoor. LEED, on the other hand, has a threshold from 10% to 65% reduction in water beyond the LEED baseline, so comparing it to other LEED buildings. And you can score all the way from 1 to 12 points, which is a majority of the points in the rating system, taking the performance pathway under LEED. Green Globes has more than or equal to 40% in indoor only, 24 points, and then those thresholds are 35 to 39%, 30 to 40%, 25 to 29% for 6 points. And so that's kind of where those thresholds are. So you can kind of see where the focus is. Green Star is actually going to be using the water efficiency rating score. It's not built in there yet, but it will be an optional pathway for points going all the way down to achieving our zero water capable home, which will be launching here shortly. One thing about water performance pathways, why would you use it? Well, because it's going to be more work. So in the case of LEED and Green Star, it's worth more points. Living Building Challenge, it's fully required because you have to be a net zero water building. You have to catch as much rainwater or draw as much rainwater out of the ground as you put back into the ground at the same rate, and it has to be just as clean, if not cleaner, for living building. But anyway, the reason you would use water performance in programs like these is a couple of reasons. Number one, if you've got an affordable housing project, a lot of the comments we get back is that, we need those higher flow toilets, right? We're scared, we don't want them to break down, we got a lot of situations. Okay, well, you can't meet the prereqs, so we'll let you do the performance pathway, and you can meet it a different way. And same for your higher end clients, right? They need those high flow shower heads. They need 2 shower heads. They need 3 shower heads. They need it to rain. They want to make it rain. Okay, so they failed the prereq, right? So same thing. You can go either in the affordable housing situation or the high end client situation. You can go, look, we're going to take you down the performance pathway, and we're going to find your savings somewhere else, right? For the high end climate, give them the low flow toilet that looks nice. Great, that's going to cut a lot of water usage. For the affordable housing, go outside and let's cut the water usage outside. And so anyway, that's the neat thing about performance is you kind of get to pick where you want to put all your water savings at, and so you can offset the loss and meet it that way. So that's one of the downsides to only having prescriptive pathways is you pretty much are forced to pick those certain areas. All right, so our Madison Supportive New Construction Midrise got 5 out of 12 water credits. Again, this is just estimated because they only certified under LEED 2008, so we kind of made this up for V4, but we're pretty sure we're accurate. So they got a 33% reduction that's estimated in total. As you can see, most of that came from indoor water use, and that's simply because you see the sprinkler on outside, but I promise you, unless you're down in the West or in Arizona where you're trying to keep a well-maintained lawn, all of our water use is happening inside. It's not happening outside. All the action is indoors. And so you can see 76,000 gallons per month saved indoors, only 1,000 saved outdoors with a 30% reduction. For enterprise, they got 4 points. And for National Green Building Standard, they would have hit silver certification in this area, which again holds all the other areas back. And they were just 1 point short of gold for water, so they might have been able to bump that up. So our Midwest Moderate Rehab, similar to energy modeling, just like this. Here you go in and you sort of, from what we can tell, you get to just make stuff up. They haven't really launched any specific guidance, but you get to make up how much usage there is per week from your occupants. And then that's also based on the existing flow rates, but you're kind of making this up. We recommend you go and use EPA standards, but this is kind of what we came up with Home Innovations Lab for a particular project. And then you kind of come back in and you would use those same numbers unless you're anticipating a change in occupancy, and you would put in the new flow rates, and then what the reduction is, and then boom, it's going to spit it out. So on the workbook, you'll see that there is a place for outdoor water, but they're not making any changes out there, so we didn't even bother with that. So with outdoor air water, they got a near 40% reduction from where it was to where it is, and we're just 0.4% shy of hitting the gold level. But their goal was silver, so they're not golden, right? Our urban infill single family gut rehab, they got 3 out of the 12 points. Just did the basic indoor fixtures for water. For enterprise, they would have gotten 4 points for leak detection and water metering. And in National Green Building Standard, they were 9 points shy of gold, only hitting the silver level in NGBS for water. All right, so the Detroit Substantial Midrise, we're looking at 0 points for enterprise, high threshold to meet. NGBS, they were 23 points shy of emerald. So, and then for LEED, they would have only gotten 2 out of the 3 required minimum points due to their higher flow toilets. And so that would have failed them right out. They probably could improve their outdoor landscaping. It wasn't tracked here, so they would have failed LEED. And then Ohm Sweet Ohm, new construction got theoretically 9 out of 12 points, or not theoretically, this is real. 70% water savings, 90% of that came from indoors. And they had rainwater catchment, and we had no idea how to calculate that because it doesn't come on the workbook. So we used the water efficiency rating score from Green Builder Coalition to calculate the rainwater catchment only, and we're able to snag them some more points. For National Green Building Standard, they were 14 points over emerald, and NGBS actually has some built-in prerequisite prescriptive pathways for rainwater catchment. Unlike LEED, you've got to model it. All right, materials. See if there's any questions. I don't see any. All right, so this, I kind of have this all as this big list here because it's pretty much, weighted the same and reviewed the same in all of the programs, but this is kind of like your sort of big wish list of how green products can be. And most of the programs look at these. Some of them are weighted significantly differently than others. Like NGBS calls them more, like basically more important versus, minor, major components versus minor components. LEED just kind of looks at them all the same. NGBS or Green Communities kind of looks at them all the same. But, these are sort of your main culprits here. And then how do you make them more sustainable? Are they within 500, 100 miles? Are they 25% reclaimed, 25% post-consumer, 50% pre, up to 75% recycled content, certified wood, bio-based, all of these different things. And so you can snag points by having one or more of these kind of meet all of these different features in each of those rating systems. And I will tell you this, most of the time this is an afterthought, right? It's kind of like we're speccing the product we're speccing. This is the one we're using. And does it meet the points or not? Okay. Okay, and if we're missing a few points in materials, let's go chasing this. But for the most part, these points are never intentionally pursued with most of the teams we work with. They're kind of just afterthoughts. They're kind of just cherries on top, bonus points. And, you know, whether that's an experience you'll experience in your projects or not, I don't know. Just statistically, as I was putting all these case studies together, I was like, yeah, you know, that does seem to be the case. And so really the push has got to come from policy and education on how to make these products better. LEED is doing an okay job, but you know, it is, from what I can tell, you know, not as looked at. If you're someone who wants to get into life cycle analysis, you can pick up points. NGBS has a whole 15 line items devoted to how to do this. And Living Building is basically going to make you go through some very stringent LCAs to pick up points. So that's basically taking a look at all of these products here and getting even more nitpickety with them and drilling down on where they came from and what they're doing and where they're going at the end of their life. And it's almost like, I'd almost say like the future of material energy modeling. And maybe that is the future. On-site composting and sorting. These programs give a little bit of points for on-site composting and sorting your recycling and having a method designed to do that. Building decon and reuse. So these programs are giving points if you can deconstruct the building and reuse that material on-site or at least divert it from the landfill. And Living Building basically going to make you do all that. Advanced framing. So what is that? That's 24-inch on center. Very smart. Fits more insulation, less thermal bridging. That's California corners, two-stud corners, staggered stud to fit more insulation in between and stop the thermal bridging. Headers sized for load, advanced framing in the attic, you name it. So most of the points there are for material points, but bonus, your energy model is going to like a little bit more in some of your advanced framing methods, especially to reduce thermal bridging. Waste diversion, pretty straightforward. Programs like Enterprise Green Communities actually require a degree of waste diversion. LEED is going to base it on, at least for this version 4.1 is actually kind of moving away from this, but it's actually basing it on a LEED reference home. So again, more bedrooms, less square feet, less waste you have to divert, and then vice versa. Enterprise starts off at a 50% recycle of individual item type. So, so that's one way to do it, 50%. Or you can do specified materials and recycle at least 2 of them. So cardboard, wood, drywall, metals, concrete, brick, and asphalt. Or you can develop and implement a comprehensive, efficient framing that minimizes all waste by design, get a point. Or you can do 1 point for less than 2 pounds per square foot of building sent to landfill, 2 points for less than 1.5 pounds in Enterprise Green Communities. NGBS scores credit by having a 50% or more reduction in plan in place, reviewed on-site recycling process, biomass can be burned on-site for renewable energy, and then you can get more points by doing 2 to 5 types of material for recycling. And then Green Globes just gives you points by having a threshold of somewhere between 25% and 74% reduction from landfill diversion. So non-toxic pest control, we're looking at steel mesh barriers, termite baiting, physical termite barrier system. Below grade walls use solid concrete foundation walls, masonry walls with a course of solid block bond beam, concrete filled. Installing post-tension slabs, treating all cellulosic structural material like wood framing with a registered pesticide containing a borate, and following the manufacturer's constructions for pre-construction treatment. Using non-cellulosic materials for all structural elements, having ports or openings for all plumbing elements that penetrate the slab to allow access for future inspections, registered termite bait, with ongoing maintenance, inspection space between the surface of the planned landscape grade and non-masonry siding, basic stuff like sealing all cracks, joints, and penetrations, entry points with caulk, rodent-proof, corrosion-proof screening on your pipes and openings greater than 1/4 an inch, design discharge points for rain gutters and air conditioning condensation lines that discharge at least 24 inches away from the foundation. And one easy one that we like is keeping plants at least 18 inches away from exterior wall systems. Aging in place features, so again, that's very important and is built into some of these. And that falls into materials in some ways because the idea is that you don't have to go in and renovate the house to allow someone to access it, as they age and can't reach things. So you kind of have it so they can just age comfortably in their home and in the future, or an older couple or somebody with disabilities were to purchase that home, they could access it. All right, so let's take a look. Madison Supportive Housing, 3 out of 9 credits under V4. Missed a durability management credit inspection, which we think would be pretty easy to get. Reduced waste 50% below the LEED waistline, and they just, really didn't get many credits on EPPs like we could expect. Environmentally preferable products. For enterprise, they've got 13 points theoretically for materials, and one interesting one is they got a bunch of points for having recycling for tenants. And then for National Green Building Standard, they were theoretically 2 points over the Emerald status for resource efficiency.
All right, so the Midwest Moderate Rehab here for National Green Building Standard, they're on track for quite a bit of points here, 62. So they, in NGBS, they reward the sort of bedroom to square foot ratio here. So they're getting a ton of points for being a multifamily building, which is inherently more compact. They've got pre-finished site assemblies going into the building, which trims, you name it, those typically don't get rewarded in most of the other green building programs. Having an existing awning over the door, which actually is helping keep moisture, water, and the sun away from fenestrations, which is going to help, rot them and reduce their durability. So again, that's not something found in other rating systems rewarded here at NGBS. There's no existing architectural features in the pitch of the roof and the windows. They're going to otherwise divert water, hold it, and trap them. And a lot of programs kind of just require that in Energy Star, but it's pretty unique to Home Innovations Lab. And then, of course, they've got their California Air Resources Board formaldehyde reduced certified cabinets, which are going to get them points here. For LEED, they would just get 1 out of 10 points, and they would have failed their prereq anyway in this category, so it wouldn't have mattered. And we just estimated that 1 point based on what we think their waste reductions will be based on their waste planning. And then at EGC, they're going to snag 2 points for having some recycled content in their materials that they're using, and then doing, again, the recycling during construction.
And then let's see if we got a question here. How is aging in place measured? So that's a great point. And I'll be honest that I have a lot to learn about zero-step and universal design and how it's completely measured. But part of it is being able to reach things, so like being able to change your furnace filter, reaching your lighting control, being able to change your lighting when it needs to be changed, being able to reach cabinetry, get into the cabinetry, being able to access the sink, all those kinds of things. And so yeah, zero-step, aging in place, ADA, universal design, assistive technology, they're all sort of these terms that sort of interweave into each other under the term accessibility. So they all kind of mesh together, but yeah, great question. So anyway, urban infill, single-family gut rehab, 4 out of 10 here. Environmentally preferred products actually had quite a bit for this project. So recycled content, locally sourced. A lot of waste diversion, so they're not rewarded for this because they have no way to track it. It'd probably be pretty high, but they send it to a central facility with some of their other corporate offices, and it's all good. It just they don't know how to track it, so they're not getting rewarded for that. Theoretically, for enterprise, they would have gotten 8 points. A lot of that comes from more environmentally preferred flooring. And then for National Green Building Standard, they would have theoretically got 21 points shy of Emerald, so just hitting the gold level. Our Detroit Midrise Substantial Rehab got 6 points here, mostly in environmental flooring. For National Green Building Standard, they would have only met bronze, and that got cut off there, sorry, but they were 3 points shy of hitting silver in this area, which again would disqualify them for tax credits. And then for LEED, they would have gotten 3.5 out of 9, but failed to do a formal durability plan. They probably are meeting all of it, but it wasn't done just because it's not required for enterprise. And they have a really good outlook, probably a 70% reduction in waste management based on their other projects. Our Ohm Sweet Home new construction got 3.5 out of 10 in this area. So really didn't focus too much on materials, like we said. No waste diversion, none of that. And they would have gotten 8 points shy of gold in home innovation. So quite a bit of points here, probably a lot we didn't even track. So they probably actually would be able to meet gold. We just didn't track a lot of those same concepts in LEED. And our final pillar, last but never least, place. Sustainable sites, location, lot design and prep, location, and land are all sort of covered, as well as tenant and building manager training gets in here. So integrative project team planning, this is pretty straightforward. It's just ensuring that your project teams are coming together, they're meeting, it's a diverse team, they're working together, they're having sort of continuous meetings or phone calls to ensure that the project is on track. Obviously, more in multifamily, you're going to have more of those meetings, whereas single family or you got a jack of all trades builder, you're going to have less of those meetings. It's all within the context of the project. NGBS really is only looking for something simple here. They just want a team statement, a team mission, and a couple goals. So LEED is a lot more stringent. Green Globes is just asking you to have 5 team members with various backgrounds. So I don't know what happens if you're a jack of all trades there, but that's where their credit starts. And then design Charrette. So this is actually, sitting down with the team and going through a formal plan Charrette with the lead or the rater, the green verifier, the energy rater at the meeting. LEED's requiring 8 hours, non-consecutive. Green Globes goes very far in depth into the amount of off meetings that can happen and when they occur. And Green Star is pretty nonchalant about it. It's just asking for some proof that there were these very in-depth in-person meetings or over-the-web meetings with your major design team. This one's really interesting. This is identifying how the expected performance of your project compares to the actual performance of other projects in your portfolio or your community. Performance may be identified in terms of energy consumption or energy use intensity, water consumption, and/or specific resident health indicators, and should explicitly tie into the project goals to identify through Creation 1.8. So Enterprise is actually giving you a ton of points if you just figure out what the heck is going on in your building portfolio or your community. And I should have LEED EBOM up here because that's actually would have been required to go through the LEED existing building operations and maintenance. And to score points, the better you do. So EGC is saying just do the work. LEED EBOM would be saying how are you doing in comparison to the rest of everybody else. Again, here we're looking at vulnerability assessments being done, not required on single-family homes, but on multifamily and community developments. We want to see a climate hazard risk assessment done, and there's a lot of points for that if you go really in depth into that risk assessment. And if you're in like Grand Rapids or Detroit or many other cities, if they have a climate resiliency plan already in place, don't recreate the wheel. Just grab their plan and say how you're going to work with it. This is, LEED and Home Innovations Lab both have and so does Living Building Challenge. All three of them they now certify entire communities. In fact, LEED now certifies entire cities. Wonder how long until we get to LEED certified galaxies. But anyway, if you locate your project, so LEED says locate in a LEED certified neighborhood, get a bunch of points. Home Innovations says locate in a Home Innovation Lab certified community, get a bunch of points. They don't play nice with each other. Green Star Enterprise says, hey, either one will do, or Living Building, or we're going to have a whole Green Star community certification here shortly. Previously developed infill lots, green globes, within 0.5 miles of a commercial zone, very open-ended. LEED says 75% of land must be 0.5 mile, 75% of the land within a 0.5 mile radius is developed. And then NGBS looks at gray fields, brown fields, slopes, as well as infill to score those points. Select a location within half mile of publicly accessible or community-based open space that is at least 3/4 of an acre, or create a publicly space on the project site. So there's one way to do that. For enterprise, you just need 20 to 40% of owned property or open space set aside. So they're not looking at space that's outside of the boundaries there. And that's highly rewarded. Open street network. So again, for LEED, we're looking at 90 intersections per square mile, and then you get more points up to, I don't know if it's 150, I forget. And then Green Star just uses the walk score for those points. So for bike network, the joke about LEED, you used to get points for having a bike rack, but no more. LEED says must be 10 uses to get to on the bike, so you must be able to get somewhere, 10 community uses, school or employment center or public transportation that you can get to on your bike. And you must have good storage, so it can't just be this bike rack that's thrown out in this shady alley that gets rained on and isn't safe to go into anymore. These bike racks got to be top-notch storage, locks, weatherproofed. In a single-family home, what is that called? It's a garage, so you get points for having a garage. So again, no more do you get points for having the bike rack out. NGBS, they just want you to be located near resources that you can bike to. They don't care about the storage. And then Enterprise Green Community kind of has a mixture of the two. And then Green Star just uses bike score to snag those points. Okay, and then local and diverse community resources. So this is just having services within half mile to 1 mile walking distance, at least 7 services. And again, these are all very different per rating system. They have different numbers they throw out there. Enterprise is kind of unique in that if you're in a rural community, a smaller tribal town, they just want you to be located within 5 miles, at least 4 services. So they're being a little more open-ended on our rural folks. LEED wants you to be located within a 1/4 mile walking distance of bus or streetcar stops, or within half mile walking distance of bus, rapid transit, light or heavy rail, or ferry terminals. And then they have certain points that go all the way from like 72 to 360 uses. And then Enterprise just wants you to be within a half mile of 60 uses per day. NGBS and Green Globes want you to be within a half mile of anything. They don't care. And then Green Star uses transit score. Reducing your heat island effect, so that's shading 50 to 70% of all hardscapes and a roofing area combined. Green Globes, so that's LEED. Green Globes wants 40 to 70% shading. Enterprise is primarily focused on the roofing, with 1 point for 50% of hardscapes, but 5 points for 100% of the roof. National Green Building Standards wants 50% of the hardscapes and or less than or equal to 70% of the roof shaded. Wildlife habitat certification. So these two specifically go with the National Wildlife Federation certification, which is free and open source to use. Home Innovations actually is pretty open-ended on what they accept. And then again, both Green Star and Home Innovations have way more choices on what you can do to build green in many areas, especially in place, than LEED or Enterprise does. So you can pick up a lot of other points. Most of them are missed in our case studies if you avoid oversloped lots, have landscape maintenance plans, tree preservation plans, improved soil, shared utilities or driveways or off-street parking or reduced parking in multifamily based on below the city limits, green roofs, windbreaks, off-street parking, and then actually get rewarded for being mixed-use developments in these. All right, so Madison supported new construction. Finally, we got this one right. 27 out of 34. Remember, in place, we're just merging a bunch of stuff together. So we merged these 5 categories together for LEED. They got all the regional priority credits. They had a LEED AP Homes on staff. They did a lot of stormwater management, and then they got a ton of points for being well connected there in downtown Madison. For Enterprise, they theoretically would get 5 points for having heavy compact development. That's more units per acre. And for National Green Building Standard, they got 6 points shy of Emerald due to missing a lot of details that are not in LEED. 133 points in place-based points, which is over Emerald, though. Our Midrise moderate rehab got 44 credits in National Green Building Standard. Not much going on with landscape there. It's an interior renovation. Not much community connectivity, but still got a lot of points. Still net silver. For LEED, they would have gotten 27 out of the 34 points. Nope. And I apologize, this is the wrong bullet point there. And so is this one. So we're going to skip those two. They would have not come close with either of these, though. Urban infill, we got 22.5 out of 34 available. They had a LEED AP on staff, good community connectivity, minor non-toxic pest control, and a lot of innovation and regional points. For Enterprise, interestingly enough, they use the local employment credit. They employ a lot of their folks locally, which most operations do, but they don't claim it too often. And then NGBS, they were 2 points shy of silver on having their manual, which I find very interesting because LEED's manual is very strict, yet just based on all the things you do, it doesn't measure up very well on single-family homes and NGBS. And then they were 17 points on sort of the lot prep for hitting the gold level.
All right, the Detroit Substantial Midrise here. So they snagged 5 points for, and I forgot to write it here, but compact development, so very compact. You know, they got all the points there for Enterprise for having more units, less acreage. They were actually, from what we could tell, they were, you know, this project is right within the approved bus transportation, but the website that Detroit provides us apparently is not up to snuff for what Enterprise needs in the submittal, so they actually denied the credit. We believe there's more than ample bus transportation there, but they denied the credit, and so we certainly could go back and do some more research, but at this point they have enough points to get to their low-income housing tax credit certification, and it wasn't worth our effort to go back and verify that. So, you know, that just, you know, if you got a team that's trying to collect as many points as they can, you might want to do that. In our case, we decided wasn't worth the effort to get the Detroit, the bus department to give us more data. For National Green Building Standard, they were 9 points shy of Emerald in lot design. That's cut off, that word's cut off or messed up there. Probably could be obtained with better assessment. There's just a lot of credits, again, that EGC doesn't look at, that NGBS has. So they probably would make it, but again, we didn't look at those items. And then for LEED, they had 15 place points out of 34. Good community connectivity, transportation would have been fine for LEED, and then having the plannings and the meetings all were helpful for the for LEED points there.
So Ohm Sweet Ohm, new construction, we've got 19 out of 34 place points. They had, again, this is a suburban home. They had good sustainable sites credits for all the stuff they did to their lot, and you can check it out on the behind the scenes video that we did. And then they had good innovations credits. For National Green Building Standard, they were 29 points shy in the emerald level on their lot preparation. And I would argue that's just because there's a lot of things we didn't look at in LEED that they probably could collect here. Decision time. So I want you guys to all open up your workbooks to the tab Decision Tree. And I just real quick want to share this with you. And for those of you, it does get a little small when so you might have to zoom in if you can. But let me share this with you here real quick. This, again, we were asked to put this together. So this is sort of our decision tree. Oops. Just trying to have me share my camera with you all. I don't know why. Sorry. All right. So this is our decision tree here. And hopefully y'all can see that locked up here. So first of all, when you're coming in to make a decision, I would say your number one decision is this new or existing? So that's going to make you make a big difference. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, you fall in the existing pathway, because we're going to come right back around again if it's new. So let's take the existing pathway. Okay. So you've got an existing project. What are you doing to this project? Is it moderate? Is it just operational? Is it a full-blown gut, or is it an addition? And then you could even add more to that. Is, if it's an addition, is it a gut addition or a remodel addition or just a full-blown addition? So here we kind of have outlined, what programs make the most sense if you're doing moderate, which ones are, they're okay, and these ones, avoid those. Here you've kind of got that same thing. You don't have to avoid it, but they are difficult. This is almost, you flat out can't do it. And then same thing, over here. So, you kind of go through this and you say, yeah, I'm doing a gut rehab, and gee, okay, I don't want it to be too difficult, but I don't want to limit my choices. So I guess another option would be, are you only doing energy? I could probably add that in there. If you're planning on going beyond energy, then you could throw that one out right away. But the way you would look at this one is like, okay, we're doing the gut rehab. Are we changing the HVAC system though? Because if not, then oh gee, we can't do LEED, that's for sure. And even some of these other ones are going to be very difficult. But you got to make some more in-depth decisions. I think we can definitely give some more guidance and build this out here to be a little bit better. But that's one of that. So okay, after you've made the decision on this and what direction you're going to go there, and you don't have to decide on the program just yet. Like I said, if you're doing a gut rehab, you might say that's fully green focused. You might say, you know what, these 5 programs, they may work for me. Okay, so let's keep these 5 programs in mind and head over to here. So what's most important to you or your client? And so I want you to fill this list out on every project that you do. So what's number 1? Is it marketability? And then resale value might be number 3. And then we definitely want to make sure we have low hard costs. We definitely want to make sure we have low soft costs. We want it to be easy. We're probably not pursuing any kind of rebates or tax credits, and honestly, we're not into advanced sustainability. So boom, you can organize it that way, and then you can of course sort your list there. So you've got here we go. You've got that, and then maybe you've got other things that are important to you, like accessibility we were just talking about. So you can write that in. I left that open for you. And then scroll down, And then, what I want you to do is place, marketing is 1, value is 2, advanced sustainability is 7, so on and so forth. And then from there, you can see sort of this is just pre-made anecdotally by us. We believe that if you're looking for marketability, LEED for Homes is your number 1. If you're looking for low soft costs, Energy Star is your number 1. If you're looking for ease of, if you're doing affordable housing tax credits, Enterprise is your number 1. So, I mean, these are sort of filtered here from our perspective, one's most desirable to least desirable. And so you can take this sort of rating system here of your things that are important to you and filter it. So again, if you're going by this, you might say, look, the best programs here are Green Star, National Green Building Standard, and Green Globe. So you can easily come through in here and say, well, marketing and value are my number 1, but LEED is kind of okay, so that's, not high for me. So maybe, I see Green Star is sort of next on that list, so put an X next to it or some kind of number. I think this could all be built out into some kind of, online rating, but in the meantime, we sort of made this chart for you. I think we might add a piece here about energy or green, but other than that, that is kind of what we put together, and so hopefully it will help you out. All right, so any questions on the decision tree? Yeah, so the decision tree will be shared on Box in your handout. So again, if you've already downloaded that handout, this one is new, so make sure you re-download the new version of that handout. So again, to wrap up here, and thanks for bearing with me as we went a little bit over, the real question is that we're asking this whole time is, where are you and where do you want to be? What's important to you? What's important to your clients? And our hope is that you can move along the sustainability continuum of maybe you're somebody who came to us and you're building illegal homes. Hey, we're not going to judge. You're trying to keep costs low. You're trying to get things done. The economy's up and running. You're not meeting that insulation requirement. Okay, you're doing what you can, and you're thriving and you're surviving. But now you want to do better, right? So you're gonna move to that next level. You're gonna start incorporating sustainability. You're gonna meet the code, and then maybe you want to start designing and building homes that give back to the environment and back to the community. And so we have one example of someone we work with here in the Chicagoland area that we're really like to point to. Brandon Weiss here, Evolutionary Home Builders. When I first learned about him and worked with him years ago when I was an intern, he was building a code home and then was like, what if I did Energy Star? And next thing you know, he's like, I did Energy Star. What if I did LEED certified? What if I did Zero Energy Ready? What if I did Passive House? And now he's building his own home to the Living Building Challenge standard, and he's test piloting, I believe, still test piloting the WELL standard on a single-family home, and he's building Living Building Passive House homes for clients now. But the progress, you saw it over years. As you can see, this was way before then, and he was winner in 2013 at the International Builder Show. And so I really think the name of his company really just showcases, what I've personally seen of, the limited times I've interacted with Brandon, and it just personally inspired me to share his story, that I think we can all kind of it's okay to just start where we're at and just to start figuring out, how do we do better on the next one? What did we do wrong on this one? And using these third-party certification tools helps us kind of quantify where we're not doing so well and how we can do better on the next one. And then, of course, we need to encourage, educate, and empower our clients to demand that we design and build this way for them. That's the marketing side of it. Is also, the other piece. You may want to do all this, but you got to have someone who's going to pay for it. And so Brandon, obviously, chooses those and finds those kinds of clients. But very inspiring. And so, and for me, that's like my number one thought for me personally as to why I do this. And I talk to a lot of builders and designers and architects, and just imagine for a second that years down the road you can see that home you helped design or build, or multifamily building or renovation. And I've had so many just tell me, like, money, cost, it's a job, I love to do it, but what if I could just look back and say, I did the best that I could with that house during that time with the resources and money that I had, and just be able to look back and just be proud of what you've done. And so, when we build, let us think we build forever. Let it not be for present delight, nor the present use alone. Let it be such work that our descendants will thank us for it. And so I just kind of want to leave you with that. I want to thank you all for joining us on this very in-depth series that cover a lot of stuff. I want to thank all of our members and our sponsors, our board of directors, our volunteers. There is no way we'd ever be able to do any of this without them believing in us and empowering us. And so I want to put some time up for questions. I do see some questions already. I want to let you know that you can email us anytime. We're here to help you make sense of all of this. We're here to help answer questions. Some of this is anecdotal, so it's coming from our opinion and our strong knowledge of cold weather climates. And we can connect you with people in your own climate zone, in your own backyard, who know all this stuff as well. And we, by far haven't even covered all the programs that are out there. There's Earthcraft Virginia in the South. What a fantastic program. There's Earth Advantage in the Pacific Northwest. There's Build It Green in California. And they all should be here, but I mean, we can only go through so many things. So, we went over a little bit, but, I did see a couple questions come in, and I did want to make sure those get answered. But again, thank you for joining us in all of this, and it's been great to, answer your questions and hear your concerns. And a lot of you helped me shape this as I went through it live along the way. And so one of the questions we got is routing a hood range through an ERV. How does that avoid grease buildup? So yeah, a lot of your energy recovery ventilator manufacturers will tell you, do not do this. Do not do it ever. Even some of them will tell you not to route the bathroom through. So you just got to make sure you're working with the right product manufacturer. But yeah, some of them nowadays do allow you to route it through, and in fact encourage it. And so how that avoids grease buildup and avoided death, I don't know. I don't know if you meant to use that term. That's kind of strong. But I certainly have a lot to learn about that personally. I do know more and more projects are doing that to cut energy usage. So what is the question is, what is the most common certification that production builders are adopting nationwide? It's interesting. Just yesterday, LEED actually went ahead and made life easier for production builders to be able to get certificates as they move on, because one of the stumbling blocks was, do you get your certificate as every house certifies, or do you kind of wait all the way till the end and pay less money, but then, you're holding up the whole process of the certificate, which is, required by the jurisdiction or what name. So LEED, for its part, has been thinking about how they can make life easier for production builders. This just came out yesterday, so those of you watching this in the future, that's November 2017. So hopefully it's all in place by the time you people of the future are watching this. But yeah, I mean, we see a lot of production builders using the HERS index rating because you can do sampling. We see them using LEED because you can do sampling. Green Star does sampling. National Green Building Standard actually doesn't allow you to do sampling on the other 4 categories of green. They do allow you to follow rev rate protocol sampling, but they don't allow you to follow sampling on the other areas. So somebody has to go through and visually verify and inspect every single little thing that's done for National Green Building Standard. And so, I would argue that it's not very production friendly, like LEED or Energy Star. What does a climate risk assessment consist of? What are some examples of the risks? Again, I shared all of these manuals and resources with you, so I certainly don't want to step on the toes of Enterprise Green Communities. You can go in and read everything in their book there. And actually, USGBC just partnered with Rely out of Minnesota, or that's where their corporate headquarters are, I think, in Perkinsville. And they're going to be bringing back climate resiliency into their innovation and design credits. They actually removed it for, I believe, legal purposes, but they are bringing it back, and so I'm on the edge of my seat for that one. But yeah, so let's just take a good example. So in Detroit, they have a climate resiliency plan, and they're expecting that in the future, no doubt there will be more heat waves, right? Just no doubt. And so they're saying, you know, how can we encourage developers to put in cooling rooms, you know, so that in a big multifamily building, if there's a community space, could it be an emergency space for the community to go and shelter in if you've got elderly or sick or young who don't have AC or their AC's out, to go into this space and be safe. So they could get extra credit for saying, yep, we saw the Detroit plan, said this, we decided this is important, we want to help, we're in Detroit, let's do it. Hint, I'm working on that with them. We'll see. The other thing is, like in Grand Rapids, Michigan here, you know, we're predicting much more rainfall, and we're certainly on track as of here, November, almost December 2017. Much more rainfall near the tail end of the fall and winter seasons, and when we definitely don't need it. And so anyway, you know, what could happen with that? Is that going to be more snow load? Okay, well, how do we design homes to protect against that? Is that going to mean more flooding in the fall when it's cold? Okay, how do we protect against flood risk management? You know, what do we do? You know, do we put our HVAC, do we put the HVAC up on the second floor, whatever. So yeah, there's all sorts of things, and I'm just using real life examples from what I know. But every area has its own climate predictions, its own climate risks. Does a shared outdoor activity space count as an open space credit? That's a great question, and you would need to ask Enterprise about that. How does straw bale home relate to those certifications? That's a good question. You know, National Green Building Standard and Green Star have very specific credits that will hand you for doing straw clay, straw bale, rammed earth. LEED, on the other hand, I think gives out points for local materials and innovation points for local materials. A lot of those materials come from the local community. Enterprise gives out points for local economic job creation, and sure the heck those products are going to create lots of local jobs, because you can't, you know, you gotta do it all locally there. And then of course you've also got a lot of straw bale and straw clay homes use a lot of passive solar design features, so there's credits that way. So yeah, it's definitely in there. It's not usually called out specifically in most of the systems. So, well, I want to thank you all for bearing with us as we went a little bit over time here. A lot to cover, a lot to go over. Thank you for joining us for this series. I hope you all have a fantastic holidays coming up here soon. Make sure to take that survey, to take the quiz if you're watching on demand, and please don't, you know, hesitate to let us know if we can help you. Thank you.